Hey guys, welcome to Module 2 of Social Work 642. This week we're going to be talking about some really key concepts. The reading is going to be very important this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the behaviors and how you measure them, the behavior you choose in your research and how it's measured, evidence-based methods for recording and reporting that behavior, and also some of the most important concepts we're going to be talking about are reliability and validity. Thus, your assignments this week reflect that. In your written assignment this week, entitled Assignment 2, is about reliability and validity. And I think, don't stress too much about this written assignment. I just want to see that you understand what reliability and validity is. And you can even use examples to illustrate that. So I think once you really dig into reliability and validity, they're pretty easy concepts to understand. It's just kind of getting in there and really looking at it. So that can be a very short written document, a page or two. If you can explain it in less, the page, the length of your written assignment is not really important to me. It's just that I can see that you understand the concepts. So that assignment I think is going to be really important this week. Also, you have a discussion forum this week, and the discussion forum, this is your first one for this class, and the discussions are intended to help you build toward your research project. Everything will help. And in this discussion, you're going to talk about your intended target population and behavior. Now listen, a lot of times this changes 2 or 3 times before you actually get to your approval form, which the approval forms are going to be due in February 10th, I believe. So we've got some time to kind of iron out the details. But this one get you started in thinking about what you want to do with your research project. So behavior. Now the important thing with behavior, and I know I've mentioned this in the last module, behavior is what you are measuring. So your behavior must be measurable. For example, behavior that is easily measured is something like sleep. We can measure the duration of sleep very easy on a daily basis because, something happens every day to most of us. We might get more sleep sometimes than others. And when you're graduate students, I know that's sometimes limited, but it's something that's easily measurable. So when you're thinking about your behavior, make sure it's something you can measure. And like I said, we got time to iron out the details, and it will evolve. And when you're thinking about how to measure things, if you measure things like mood or stress or anxiety, you think about things in terms of an evidence-based measure. There's like an evidence-based survey you can use that's been used in other research. So you can start kind of looking at the literature and thinking about that kind of thing. So this will just try to kind of get your feet wet. The discussion is not due until January 27th. However, it's really due before then, because I encourage you to post early and often and give that feedback to your peers. And I know sometimes that's hard with busy schedules, and I know not everybody likes discussion posts, but you'll really find it's more enriching when you do that. You can have more information out there to look at, and you can provide more feedback. And don't be afraid to give lots of feedback to your peers. That's the way we learn and evolve. You might have a really good idea, for someone's research they may not have really thought about. So it can really help your peer, and in turn help you learn more about the process. So I hope you guys will get in the discussions a little earlier and not just wait till the last day. Now this one will be, since we're just getting started, but later on in the class, that will be reflected in your grade. Also, if you wait just to the last minute and post everything, your grade will be penalized for that. But just for now, just get started, get used to that, get in the habit, and move forward. Now, as far as the research project, I hope you guys have had a chance to look under content. There's an entire folder devoted to the research project, and it has all the information regarding the project and the process so that you can understand how this is going to flow along. So the very first process is us ironing out all the details as far as what you're doing your research project on. Now, There's a couple options with your research project. You can do it as a single subject design. When we're talking about population in discussion 1, this kind of fits into that. You can do it as a single subject design, even on yourself. You can do the research on yourself, or you can do it as a group design looking at multiple people. However, there are advantages and disadvantages to each one. In this program, we understand that it's not always feasible for everyone to do a group research project. And the reason behind that is because you may not be in field this semester, or you may not have access to individuals that in groups, or may not be in a field placement where they will allow you to do that. So we have the single subject option where you can do it on another individual or yourself. And a lot of times I encourage students to do it on themselves, and that's perfectly fine, because in this class I'm more interested in you understanding the process of how to conduct research rather than your outcomes. When we hear about research, we a lot of times think about big research projects or clinical trials with 100 participants, or with big scientific discoveries or large impacts. Well, that's one of the end games in research, but first we have to understand really how the process works. And ideally, if you work with a single subject, it actually is easier for you to slow down and really think about the process. Now, if you decide to do a group design, there are a couple extra hoops you have to kind of jump through with that. We have to do our Human Subjects Review Board. You have to submit that to Concord's Human Subjects Review Board for approval to make sure that the proper protections are there for your human subjects. You have to get permission from your field placement or wherever you're conducting research, and also informed consent from your participants. So it becomes a much more intensive process when you have to go through the entire group design. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your research project. And I know we'd all love to do group design projects, big, research projects, but that may not always be feasible with the time that you have. I know some of you may be taking multiple classes, have families, have full-time jobs. So be cognizant of your time restraint, because it may just not be the best fit for you to take on a group design project, because it will take up a great deal of your time. So just keep those things in mind as you're thinking through your project. And certainly I'm going to try to set aside some times where we can talk. Last semester when I had this class, I met with a lot of students individually, and I think that worked better than trying to determine a time where we can meet as a group, because we can talk about your project specifically. And that worked out really well, and I think people felt a lot better about their projects once we talked. So I'm going to try to set aside some times, or we can work directly together to talk about your project. So if you want to go ahead and talk about your project now or anytime in the near future, just reach out to me via email and we'll schedule a time. But I will try to do some time slots so we can talk about research projects. Okay. So as we move through the process, the approval form becomes very important, because you have to have full approval from me as instructor before you can begin your research project. Second part, after you get approval, you can move into your project proposal, which is basically the first sections of your research project. And if any of you guys are coming in from the foundation level of the program, the research class you took there, that's basically the proposal you did in that class. This is everything up until you start collecting data. So this is your literature review, methods, your research question, your abstract, this introduction, those parts. So that's what's going to be new next. And what happens is each one you submit, I give you a great deal of feedback. So that way you can take that feedback and use it for your final paper, because you're going to submit that in addition to your data collection and your results for your final paper that's due like in April. I think April 28th. So, I'm going to give you lots of feedbacks. And with the approval form, you may not get approval the very first time. So I'll look at your approval form. I'll give you lots of comments, and I may not approve. And we may need to talk. But then you can submit it again, and you keep submitting that form until, we get to a good place where you've gotten approval. Okay. So that's kind of how this is going to flow through the class. And it's all kind of, stair-stepped, and the discussions and the assignments are supposed to help you do that. the assignments in module 1 and 2 are just really key concepts that I want you guys to really understand, because you're going to have to apply them down the road in your research project. Because when you do talk about your results in your discussion section, that reliability and validity is important to discuss, and what things affected your reliability and validity for your project. So it becomes very important, later down the road. So it will be useful information. So really try to soak it in this week, because I think reliability and validity are one of the most important concepts in research, and understanding how that affects your research. So I hope Module 2 is helpful this week. Like I said, you have your discussion question and your assignment due on January 27th. I know this week's a little bit heavier than last week, but it's good stuff, good material. And the reading is very important this week. But as we get started, let's just try not to jump too far ahead on the research proposal, but just start thinking about it, getting your feet wet, and really understanding the process and how we're going to do this, okay? But if you have any questions at any time, or have anything that may not be unclear, just let me know. I'm here to help you guys. I want to make sure that we all come away learning more about the research process, and how we can do research in a way that's most beneficial for our clients. That contributes to that evidence-based body of knowledge that we have in social work. So we want, research is the way that we continue to build upon that body of knowledge. So we're here to learn, and I'm here to help you. So don't hesitate to reach out. So you guys have a wonderful week, and enjoy Module 2.